Hi, and welcome to News24's Top Corner, where we will be discussing the FIFA World Cup. It has been a tournament that has been exhilarating, pulsating, all the superlatives that we can throw in a bunch of sentences together. In studio with me to dissect everything, we have News24 Sport chief writer Rob Houwing. Hi Rob.
Hello,
Thank you
Tash.
for joining me again
Pleasure.
this week. It's been, as I've mentioned, an exhilarating tournament, and as we have seen on Tuesday, one of the best individual performances by a 35-year-old, none other than Lionel Messi.
Yes, indeed. There's going to be no lack of talking about that, just considering that climax that has been gradually building with Leo Messi. Is he going to get the Holy Grail? Is it finally going to come at the age of 35? I was doing some research on him, a little bit earlier, and when he came to the 2010 tournament, which seems an eternity ago, in South Africa, he already had 45 Argentina caps. So you can imagine how much more experience he's gained in the interim. That wasn't even his first World Cup. His debut was in 2006. What a fitting finale it would be. It would be the kind of the purest delight in many ways, I suppose, if he could, earn the fairy tale. But no automatic ticket, of course. He hasn't got that stamp in the passport yet. They've still got to get past the considerable hurdle of Argentina, of France, for him to be able to boast that thing. But of course, his quest is just mounting. You could see there's that sort of motivation and desperation for him to want to go all the way to World Cup glory.
And it's funny that you mention that. It seems that the World Cup, specifically speaking international tournaments, because the Copa America as well has been a gold medal that has been a bogey for him. But last year he achieved that at the rightful age of 33, 34. And now at 35 he can do, the ultimate, winning that 18-karat gold trophy on Sunday against a France team that has been, in their own right, superb as well.
Yes, they have. The French team, let's not forget, have been a very clinical side. I wouldn't say they've been consistently sort of wowing. The interesting thing going into the final, of course, is that both teams have had sort of significant sort of banana peel matches. The real biggie, of course, was Argentina at pretty much full strength in their opening group match, losing to Saudi Arabia. I mean, that was a real sort of juddering result for the tournament, wasn't it? Among several in the group stage, as we know. But it's history now that they regained their composure to grind their way through all the way to the final without any further setbacks. France, for their part, of course, in their third and actually reasonably academic final group game, lost to Tunisia. But we know that was with a weakened side, so we can almost sort of take that off the ledger and say that France really, with their sort of full-pronged side, have gone through the tournament fairly imperiously. So we're set up for a fantastic final between two genuine heavyweights of world football. I know we would have loved the fairy tale of Morocco going all the way to a final. That would have been just as compelling if they had made it all the way. But for a football connoisseur's point of view, France versus Argentina, it doesn't get too much bigger than that, does it? In World Cup history and gravitas.
And before we even touch on France and Morocco, I want to touch on Lionel Messi one more time in terms of, that one trophy that is missing from his cabinet. He's won the La Liga a plethora of times. He's won League One in France. He's won UEFA Champions League 4 times. Ballon d'Or 7 times as well. The GOAT among the GOATs. I mean, he's up there with the greats. Zinedine Zidane, R9 from Brazil, Pele, Maradona as well, who's, put him as soon as he came through the ranks in the Argentina international scene to be, to take sort of the fire from him and take it forward for Argentina. They can do that now he can complete that cabinet for himself.
100%.
Is he the greatest of all time? I know it's the age of all debates. Among this generation, but who do you think would he top that list right now after just completing that on Sunday, if he were to do that?
Yeah, look, he'd be right up there. I always hate to sort of put one particular person on a pedestal. When you have generations, things change in football. Dynamics change. You shift into different professional times. Far bigger workloads on players, far bigger pressures, social media and stuff. So, comparing, say, a Pele from 1958, 1962 onward to someone like a Messi is almost a futile exercise. I suppose that the big modern modern debate has always been the sort of the parallel, Messi versus Ronaldo. And Ronaldo, of course, through no special fault of his own, Portugal have stumbled again at sort of a key hurdle at the World Cup, whereas Messi, gets a crack at the ultimate glory. If he does manage to do it, of course, I think the tendency will be to say that he has edged the 100-meter sprint, if you like, with Ronaldo for just that definitive, is he the greatest of the modern era, and it would be hard to dispute. The only thing perhaps is that is the pressure going to prove too much on Sunday? It is such a, it's been such an elusive thing for Lionel Messi that at the age of 35, he knows it is kind of the last roll of the dice, almost certainly in terms of winning a World Cup. Is it going to prove too much? We know that he's got the temperament, so I'm not too concerned from that point of view. But you just wonder, sporting history is littered with cruelty, and just maybe, we can't just assume that the fairy tale awaits. Because France have aspirations of their own. They want to become the first, retainers of a World Cup, incredibly since Brazil 58 and 62. That's a long way back, and it's a fantastic aspiration to have. To wish to go back to back, which, as we know, just doesn't come along every day for a lot of players.
What set this Argentina team among the rest? For you personally?
I think the way they regrouped after the Saudi game, maybe the Saudi game was almost a blessing in disguise. The sort of wake-up call that some teams maybe need. I think we discussed on a previous program how these days international players go into international camp a lot later than they used to. Club priorities really reign supreme, don't they? These days, you don't have as much of a culture of national teams being together for long periods. It's all rather hasty, and I just think they were caught cold. Saudi were fantastic in that game. You had to give them credit for that result. It was a fitting result, and Argentina were rattled. But since then, they've actually regrouped, very, very decently, quite clinically. They beat Mexico and Poland by 2-goal margins in each of the next 2 games. So those were their big nerve settlers. That was what really put them on the passage to feeling a degree of confidence, the necessary degree of confidence going into the knockouts. And then, of course, a slightly easy ticket, you could say, against Australia in the round of 16, which was helpful. But full credit. There's no crime in that. They beat them, and then beating the Netherlands on a penalty shootout. Again, good psychologically. Argentina have a good record in penalty shootouts. That was another feather in their cap and could become useful at the weekend. Who knows?
Didier Deschamps can now join another elite group, although he's joined other 2 coaches having previously won the title as a player as well as a coach. Vittorio Pozzo, who did so with Italy, almost 80 years ago, if not beyond 80 years ago. He can do that with France now again, winning it twice as a manager and once as a player. And this France team, who's had, I think, 7 players injured. N'Golo Kante, Pogba as well,
absolutely.
Kimpembe. They just seem stronger and stronger as the tournament progresses, much like Argentina. So we have 2 teams that are meeting in the final that are at the highest peak of performancing.
Absolutely. I did a little bit of research on, experience always counts for quite a lot in any major sporting final, obviously. As much as, youth can be a very, very influential factor. Experience, calm heads is what you want going into a game of this kind of magnitude. We mentioned before, Messi goes back to 2006. Otamendi was in South Africa in 2010 for Argentina. Those are the kind of customers you want in your starting lineup going into a final. France, for their part, Hugo Lloris has been around since 2010. He was in the French squad as a sort of up-and-coming goalkeeper before becoming the staple, figure in between the sticks and the captain, obviously. Griezmann goes back to 2014. Olivier Giroud is 36 years old, I think, and had his first World Cup in 2014. So these guys are all, highly experienced, and even Kylian Mbappe, who's 23 years old, is playing in his second World Cup, and a final. So there's no need for nerves on his part. And just another enticing fact, of course, is that Messi and Mbappe go into the final as joint top scorers, don't they? As on 5 goals each, the 35-year-old and the 23-year-old, which is another great subplot to take into the showpiece game.
But how do we, after a tournament that has been so great and so sort of gracious in terms of the amount of talent that we have seen, especially from the lower teams, the minnows, and one minnow that unfortunately fell at the semi-final hurdle, Morocco. The first African team to become a semi-finalist out on the greatest stage.
They were absolutely fantastic. I thought that they played really well, even in the 2-0 defeat to France. They kept up their proud standards. They threw the kitchen sink. You could see that physically, mentally, they were shattered by the end of it. They had players both carrying injuries into the match and some who couldn't play because of injury picked up beforehand. Let's not forget that. And for a team like Morocco, you can ill afford that. They're not one of the sort of most power-packed squads. But I thought their performance was absolutely incredible. They really did the continent proud. I think it was, apart from the obvious of them being the first African side to go all the way to the semis, which automatically gives them a sort of gravitas over all African compatriots anyway. I genuinely thought that they produced consistently over the tournament, considering some of the tough games they had on paper. This was definitely the finest African moment at a World Cup tournament. Morocco's going all the way. And I love their attitude. Even when they went 1-0 down a killer, within 5 or 6 minutes, wasn't it, of the semi? And I thought they might then, leak 3 or 4. I thought perhaps the dam wall would break, but it didn't. They were right in the game up to about 78 minutes, weren't they? Ding-dong stuff. They were keeping Lloris quite busy. And I was really taken by some of their counter-attacking play too at times, considering that they'd come through to this point renowned for their sort of defensive stability by and large. And I thought they were terrific. The big challenge now is for Morocco to, I think they hugely deserve to have another AFCON soon. I think their last tournament was, they last hosted it in 1988, which is a little long now. You feel as if, considering the achievements they've had at this World Cup, Morocco must come onto the radar again for hosting of a tournament. They last won it in 1976, so a big objective. The next step for them must be to earn that sort of consistent mastery of the continent and try to eclipse Senegal as the sort of premier African team, which I think is quite feasible, considering the way they played. I thought they were considerably better than Senegal at the tournament. And Morocco's next quest, I think, before we get too excited about winning the next World Cup or anything like that, they must aim to monopolize the continent first and foremost. And I think, based on what we saw at this tournament, they've got it in them.
Yes, and that's something that we've seen now this tournament with the likes of Morocco. We've seen it now in 1990 with Cameroon, as well in 2002 with Senegal. With Morocco's performance this World Cup, it sort of microscopes more on Africa from a talent point of view.
Yes, definitely. We still like to harp on the heartbreak of Ghana in 2010, but it's not as though it was really definitively the start of something for that Ghanaian side. The Black Stars kind of sort of plateaued out after that and didn't do anything special at this World Cup. But they've certainly put. Morocco put African football right back on the map, and I thought their fans were a fantastic advertisement for the tournament. Especially the way they gradually, clearly, they didn't have too far to travel, which was nice, but of course. But the Moroccan support just grew and grew, and the atmosphere in the semi-final, which I thought was played in very good spirit, by the way, a really hard, uncompromising game, but played in tremendous spirit against the French, and their fans were absolutely superb, and it was truly a great ambassadorial role that they played for the continent as a whole, a bit of a fresh awakening for African football. Now we just want South Africa to pick up that vibe, and let's get Bafana back closer to where they should be.
And it's not all done for Morocco just yet. They play a curtain raiser, you could say it, to the final, the third playoff on Saturday. Funny enough against Morocco. I mean, funny enough against Croatia, the group opponents as well. How do you see that playing out?
Look, I suppose, having just spoken up Morocco, it'll sound strange for me to say that I now back Croatia. But just given how much effort and how much guts Morocco put into their sort of knockout campaign, this game really is the damp squib game, as we know. The third place playoff is one that nobody really wants. I think Croatia might just, especially considering Morocco are sort of walking wounded, several players on the injured list. It's possible that Croatia will nip in for the so-called bronze. But ultimately, who really cares? We were discussing beforehand that we wonder whether the playoff game really should happen anyway. It's usually a fairly tame affair, but it would be nice if Morocco could officially clinch third place. But I'm probably not going to put money on it.
Otamendi, Varane, Mbappe, Messi, Martinez, Lloris, France, Argentina. That's the final we have on Sunday. What are your predictions?
I've got a feeling that it could go all the dreaded way.
Something that you've been trying to avoid, this whole tournament.
I know. I think they're so well matched that I think it could go. We could have a 0-0 or a 1-1 situation. Even after extra time, and then go into a shootout where we know that Argentina potentially have the mental edge. They've got a superb record in World Cup shootouts. I think it's 5 from 6. Whereas France have a 50% record, I think, two successes, 2 bombs in penalty shootouts at World Cups. So I suppose if it goes all the way, you'd be backing Argentina. There's a part of me that wonders if it is settled in open play, whether maybe France will nick it. That's just my feeling. Mbappe perhaps putting a big stamp on things. But, with that Leo Messi subplot as well, it's desperately hard to call. It may well go all the way to a long evening.
Rob, it's always a pleasure, and thank you so much. And until next time, everyone, keep safe and enjoy the final on Sunday. For now, subscribe to News24, and until then, cheers.